Conspiracy 365, January by Gabrielle Lord. A First Chapter Friday read aloud video with the Word Nerd. Today, as you listen, play along. Watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down, word by word, and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Stay all the way to the end to see if you've written it down correctly. Hey teachers, did you know I have engagement worksheets to go along with each of my videos? You can find the link for them in the video description box. Help your students zone in instead of zone out by reading the blurb, learning about the author, and then marking down whether they want to continue reading this book or
My name
not.
is Zieba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. I'm so excited because I'm here today kicking off the 4th year of First Chapter Friday videos, and we are going to do it with a really great book called Conspiracy 365, January by Gabrielle Lord. Now, really cool thing about this book is that each book takes place in a month, and we start at January and we go all the way through an entire year. Another teeny tiny detail that I noticed while I was reading this, instead of page numbers counting up, they count down. They count backwards from page 185 all the way down to page 0. So it's filled with fun little puzzles and things like that. Let me read you the back so you know what the story is about, and then we will dive right in. On New Year's Eve, Cal is chased down the street by a staggering, sick man with a deadly warning. They killed your father, they'll kill you. You must survive for the next 365 days. Hurried into a life on the run with the price on his head, the 15-year-old fugitive is isolated and alone. Hunted by the law and ruthless criminals, Cal must somehow uncover the truth about his father's mysterious death and a history-changing secret. Who can he turn to? Who can he trust when the whole world seems to want him dead? The clock is ticking, and any second could be his last. If you like stories that are action-packed and full of twists and danger and explosions and keep you on your toes while you are reading, you're going to absolutely love this story. We're going to start with a prologue of December 31st. This is New Year's Eve on Flood Street in Richmond. That is where Cal lives. And it says that the time is 11:25 p.m. Here we go. It was a wild, billowing black cloak streaming behind the menacing figure that first caught my eye. I was walking home from the park when the sight of it stopped me in my tracks. Something or someone was staggering up my street. The Grim Reaper? I'd been out with Boggs, kicking the ball around, and was heading back home to help pack the car for what Mum was calling the usual family trip and New Year's shenanigans up the coast at Treachery Bay. Poor Boggs was staying at home with his mum and his gran. They'd probably struggle to stay awake watching the 9 o'clock fireworks on TV. My night was going to be tough, but at least we'd be away from it all, out on the boat. The commotion down the road came closer. As the swooping shape neared, I saw that it was a muttering, gray-looking man. He was wearing a dark bathrobe and had a weird, lopsided run, as if he was off balance and dizzy. I was just about to cross the road to avoid him when I made out what he was saying. With a rush of fear, I realized he was coming right at me. "Cal!" he screamed. "Cal Ormond!" He stumbled towards me, his wild eyes almost bursting from their sockets. He half limped, half ran, his flailing arms reaching out in front of him. A siren wailed in the distance, and within seconds an ambulance with flashing lights appeared at the other end of my street. It was driving fast, towards us. The crazy man was almost on top of me. I could smell his foul, musty breath. "Keep away from it, Callum," he sputtered as drool fell from his gaping mouth. "They killed your father. They're killing me." My heart froze in my chest. Who was this guy? Did he mean the virus? The mention of my dad carried a wave of pain so huge it sent my mind spinning. The man lunged at me. "Who are you?" I shouted, pushing him off. "And what are you talking about? How do you know my dad?" The ambulance screeched to a halt next to us, and before the man could grab me again, 2 paramedics jumped out. The first tackled him, while the second pulled something out of his bag. The madman on the ground clawed desperately at my feet. "Who are you?" I shouted again. "Nobody killed my dad. He was sick." "Leave this to us, young man," said the first paramedic, who was gruff and built like a wrestler. "He doesn't know what he's talking about. You need to get out of the way." Pinned down, the man was trapped, but as the second paramedic forced an injection into his wasted arm, he managed to twist towards me. His face was contorted. The veins on his neck pulsed and protruded. He stared into my eyes. "The Ormond singularity," he said between gasps of breath. "Don't let it be the death of you too, boy. Get out. Get away. Hide and lay low until midnight on December 31st of next year. You don't know what you're up against. Listen to me, please. 365 days, Cal. You have 365 days." "Until what? What am I up against?" The demented man's menacing words had rocked me to my soul. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. "And what's the Ormond singularity? And how do you know who I am? Just tell me who you are." The wrestler medic sidled up beside me with a stretcher, and with quick movements toward the man, he pushed me out of the way. "Our patient is very sick, and his mind is affected. Please leave this to us and get on your way." With superhuman strength, the sick man tore himself away from the medic's hold. His eyes were wide with terror. "If you don't disappear, you're going to have to survive them for a whole year. Do you realize what that means? They're going to be after you for 365 days, week after week, day after day." My confusion and fear deepened. "Them? Who is them? What are you talking about?" I asked again. "Who is after me?" The sick man's sudden surge of strength collapsed. The medics quickly strapped him down on the stretcher. His head fell to one side and his eyelids blinked, furiously fighting the sedative taking over his bloodstream. His voice continued in a haunting and harsh whisper. "Callum, the Ormond singularity. The others already know. They know your father's contacted you, and they will kill you. You must go into hiding until December 31st next year. Get your family to leave until midnight on the last day of the year. That's when the singularity runs out. You're not safe until then. Somehow, you must survive." His eyes rolled back and his body fell limp. The paramedics carried him away. "Don't pay any attention," called out the second medic. "Poor guy's been delusional for days. It's just getting worse. Don't let him worry you." And as the man was pushed into the back of the ambulance, he lifted his head one last time. "Cal," he moaned. 365 days. Once the angel. You must. For Tom." The door slammed and the ambulance sped off. In a few moments, silence closed in. I stood there, alone and bewildered. It was like nothing had happened. The only sounds now were the distant barking of a dog and the rustling of leaves in the trees that line the street. You guys, this is just the beginning of all the action that's going to happen in this book, because when he wakes up the next day, Shovel finds him. It starts, and it's going to continue for the entire year. This book is just the month of January, and again, it's going to suck you in, and it's not even going to let you go at the end of the book, because it's like a super huge cliffhanger, and you'll have to get February, and then March, and then April, and you can guess the rest of the drill. So, thank you so much for joining me for this First Chapter Friday. I hope I will see you here again next week and every week for more First Chapter Friday Read Aloud videos. See you again next time. Happy reading.
To continue reading Conspiracy 365 January by Gabrielle Lord, look for it in your school or classroom library. If you can't find it there, purchase it from my favorite local indie bookstore, Birdie's Books. Put the link for it in the description box. Then be sure to check out the rest of the First Chapter Friday playlist. I've got 3 years worth, over 150 titles ready and waiting for you. This week's mystery quote says, "Had to figure this mess out so that I could protect my family." Thanks so much for joining me on my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. I hope you come back again for more First Chapter Fridays, teaching tips, brain break videos, and more. See you again next time. Happy reading.